My name is Della Watts. I'm originally from Everett, Kentucky. I live in Cleveland, Ohio now. It's a small coal mining area where my dad worked in the coal mines there. And my mother worked as a housekeeper in Kentucky. Okay, I went to an all-black school from kindergarten to the 8th grade. And after you got to high school in 9th grade, you went to Harlan to go to high school. But the coal mines, in my 9th grade year, coal mines start shutting down. You didn't need as much coal. So my dad he moved to Cleveland, and he worked in a steel mill. And after my 9th grade year, he moved all of the family there to Cleveland. My dad, he was born in Georgia, and his family moved to Kentucky. And that's where he married my mother, and they had 8 children. And that's where we lived until like 1954, when we moved to Cleveland. He was a coal miner. My mother was from Virginia, Pennington Gap, Virginia. Esther Barnes was her maiden name. Okay, they were from Virginia, and then her mother moved to Kentucky. No, we didn't drive. Greyhound bus. When we left Kentucky, we had the Greyhound bus. And at that time, it was still very segregated. All the blacks had to sit in the back. And when we got on the bus, I never will forget that it was halfway to Cleveland rather, a rainstorm came up. And my mother couldn't get off the bus to get us water or anything because they had no place for the blacks to go get water. We had to go around the back. But the bus stopped at a bus station, but we only had about 15 or 20 minutes. And when everybody got off the bus, the black people had to go in the back of the bus station, and you didn't have enough time, so my mother had to get back on the bus. And we wanted water. So it started to rain, and it rained so hard that she let the window down, and she got water in an envelope until we had enough water to drink. Because we wasn't privy enough to go into the bus station where she could have purchased everything that we needed. Well, me and my sister, we went to an all-girls school. We had to walk to school, which was about maybe a mile, maybe not quite a mile, because there was no school buses for the school that my mother wanted us to go to. And it was just a different place. And it was a mixture of children at that time. But it didn't bother us because my mother and parents always told you got one purpose there, as to get your education and move on. And that's what we did. Although it was a mixture of children, black, white, Hispanics, it didn't mean anything to us. We had no problem with them. My husband's sister, we was best friends in Kentucky. In Kentucky. He was in the service at that time. And when he came home from the military, that's when I met him. He was from Bennington. And his dad, too, had left Kentucky because some of the coal mines were shutting down and the coal miners couldn't provide for their families. So they had to go other cities to find work, because if you got 4 or 5 kids in your family and you're not working in the coal mines, you had to feed them, you had to clothe them. But my husband was in the service, but his mother and dad and sister, they moved here to Cleveland. Maybe we were about 2 months apart from one another. But me and his baby sister, we was in the same high school in Kentucky together. We was best friends. Yeah. And we're still best friends. She's here today. Basically, it was a lot of migrations from Kentucky. People moved different cities, and a lot of my husband's friends was in Cleveland. And we would always get together on Sundays or Saturdays or holidays, eat together and have fun together. And they said, you know what, everybody is scattered, so we need to see if we can have a little reunion. Let's get together and see how many people we can get. And our first reunion, we didn't send out no literature or anything. It was about word of mouth, word of mouth. And we had this hall, and the hall was named Shaker Lee Hall. And the hall would only hold about 300 people. But we had no idea that we would get 300 people by just word of mouth, And my husband's friends kept coming, calling in Cleveland, said, we're coming up, but we're coming up, we're coming up. We didn't make no hotel reservations for nobody. They stayed in different people's homes. And my husband's friends, I had so many people at my house, I had to send my kids to my mother because they didn't have no place to stay. But it started from that, and I think from Shaker Lee Hall, we couldn't get the people in there. I think over 1,000 people showed up. It was just that many people. And we were all from Kentucky. Everybody had the same love for Kentucky. Because your husband loved Kentucky. They loved Kentucky. It was fun, and I never will forget. That night, I was so dressed up, I thought I was so pretty. I had my hair done that day. When I got in that hall, my hair said, shoop. It was so hot in that place. You couldn't breathe. They overflowed in the parking lot, on the sidewalks, because you couldn't get people in there. Because we didn't have no registration. We didn't know how many people was going to show up. This was the first time we tried it. And it was word of mouth. We didn't really branch out to chapters until about the second reunion. And some of the people from Detroit says, well, since you all had a get together, we're going to have it in Detroit next year. And then after Detroit, I think we went to Chicago. And it just started building from that. Different people come from different cities. We're from all over the place. We have California people here, Texas, Kentucky, Atlanta. They're from all over the place. And we have had at least about 15 chapters, and now we're down to about 12. the club grew out of love for each other. It's more or less like a big family. It just grew out of love for home and wanting to keep in contact with all of your friends who has moved from this place to that place. Your teachers, our school teachers used to come to the reunions. It was just a great fun affair. It was a loving affair for the weekend, Labor Day weekend. And Labor Day weekend, you didn't have that much activities going on in different cities. So you could get a nice rate for hotels and stuff now, but now it's totally different from that. You got a lot of competition for Labor Day weekend, but our reunion has always been Labor Day weekend. Love for one another. My husband loved this club so much. From one year to the next, he was planning for the next year. Just, you know, his classmates, when his teachers was able to come, he was proud of showing his teachers his family and the progress that they have made. It's just like a love affair. It's good to see one another from year to year. It is so good to see one another from year to year. And we look forward to it. We always plan with our children, we always plan 2 vacations. The one vacation was for the reunion, and the other one was for the family. But we always had 2 vacations every year.
Is there anything else?
And my kids loved coming to the reunion because when they had the opportunity to meet my husband's or my teachers, well, what kind of student was my dad? Was he bad in school? You know, but it was fun for them. And my kids, they couldn't fathom a one-room schoolhouse. So one year we took our kids to Kentucky and they saw the one-room schoolhouse. And my kids said, "This ain't nothing but a little box." But see, it wasn't that many children. You had one teacher taught 1 through the 8th grade. And they could not fathom that in their mind at all. They just couldn't get it. But a one-room schoolhouse for black children. I went to Everett's Black School.
That's what
Everett's, well, it wasn't elementary, it was just Everett's Black School. And they had an Everett's White School. Roosevelt High School, but it was an all-black school. Roosevelt, that's where all the black kids from the different coal mining camps like Everett's, Verdia, High Splint, Clover Splint, all of those little small coal mining camps fed into one high school. That was a different coal mining camp. And there's people here that you could interview from Jenkins, their school background. Yeah, it's a little difference, not that much. You didn't have the closeness or the friendship that we had at home. Because at home, you know, our neighbors then would look after the children. If my girlfriend Alice, mother, saw me doing something I didn't have no business, and we didn't have no telephone and that, before I could get home, believe you me, my mother knew it. And if Miss Alice had to whoop my behind, she would and send me home. But here in Cleveland, you didn't have that closeness of families. In Kentucky, you had a close-knitted family. If my parents had something to eat and my neighbor didn't have enough, then my mother fed those kids. If my mother was in the hospital one time because my mother had asthma, but my neighbors, the mother of that house would come over and make sure our hair was combed, our clothes was clean for us to go to school. But in the cities, you don't have that. You don't have that. I've never seriously thought about it. But our clubs are getting smaller because we're getting older, and they're looking for different directions for the clubs to go in order for the clubs to survive. And that's what we're going towards now, is trying to figure out a way to have this organization to survive, because a lot of our older people are dying out. The clubs are smaller, and we can't no longer maintain the level that we have been in with the groups getting smaller.